Good morning. Hi, I'm Frank Messina, and I'd like to welcome you to the August 16, 2022 meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission. Before we start, we have a number of announcements to make. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify the chairman. Seeing none. Pursuant to Governor Baker's June 16, 2021 signing of an act relative to the ending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, including the extension of his March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law 30A 20, until March 31, 2023, this meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission is being conducted both in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that a person who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may doing so by calling the phone number 508-945-4410. Conference ID 731-795-13 #, or by joining the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. Despite our best efforts, we will not be able to provide real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. Thank you very much. Okay, first order of business is a roll call. All votes and discussions are done by roll call. Mr. Lear?
Present.
Mr. Burlingame?
Here.
Ben Solobzinski? Absent. Stephanie Hamilton?
Here.
Jane Moffett? Absent. Don Aikman?
Here.
Sandy Porter?
Present.
Janet Tennyson?
Here.
As we have two members, the chair is present, and we have two regular members missing, both Sandy and Janet our alternates will act in addition to engaging in the discussion, but also voting members of the commission today. Thank you very much. Okay, first order of business is the minutes from July 19, 2022. Any comments, corrections, additions, deletions? Seeing none, motion to accept the minutes?
I move that we accept the minutes from July 19th, 2022.
Thank you very much.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Aikman. Thank you very much. Okay, as I said, quick roll call. Bob?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much. Okay. Our first application is a continuation of 22007 309 Stage Harbor Road, which we were hearing both in reference to Chapter 158 demolition delay and also in accordance with provision of the Section 12E of the Cape Cod Commission Regional Policy Act. Again, this is 309 Stage Harbor Road, presented by Mike Tartamella. Am I mispronouncing that, Mike?
That's great, Frank.
Got it. Of Patrick Ahern Architect. And we had an extensive hearing, and there was just one one asked change of the application that we asked the applicant to take a look before we made a final determination. And thank you very much. I appreciate your cooperation. You want to quickly present it, go through it?
Sure. Just for the record, Mike Tartamella, Patrick Ahern Architect for 309 Stage Harbor Road. So we had a couple of little things, little tweaks from the last presentation. So we put together a modified pack of revised drawings with options that you had requested for shutters, no shutters. We included some reference photos. Could you go back one, please? Sorry. One of the things we did go back and do is document the existing window detail so that just to provide an illustration of what we would replicate for the new. There were some questions about the casing and trim detail around the windows in the last go-around. So here you can see the historic sill, a traditional casing. There's a little one-by cap and a little apron on the bottom. So we would document, we would capture this in the new proposed plans as well. We also took the opportunity to go back and see what we could find for historic information. And courtesy of the Atwood Museum, they gave us a photograph that showed the house prior to some additions that were put on it. However, I think one of the takeaways from this that there were vestiges of shutters at one point. So we wanted to include that here moving forward as we evaluated the two elevation options. The changes to the elevations, we're going back and revising the window pattern to a 2/2 window. We went and did that consistently around the house. We also added back in the chimney in the back, albeit fake at this point. We removed the later chimney that I think we all sort of agreed the last hearing didn't really carry much weight. But there is a sort of call to what the old chimney would have been in the back here. Clearly, that's the one that was more original to the house, also based on that photograph that we provided. So I think, you know, between the photo research, adding the chimneys, taking a look at the window details a little bit closer, and going with the windows at 2/2, I think we've addressed some of the comments and suggestions from the last hearing. And if we want to go through, we provided the elevations to illustrate both the shutter option and the no shutter option. So here you're seeing the existing elevation above, the new elevation below with shutters. We could go forward. This is just going around the entire house with shutters. And then we have an elevation package without shutters. Yes.
There was one minor technical or graphic question. When you look at the proposed, the fact that you don't show anything on the roof, I assume that just somebody didn't press the right button?
Oh, the hatching? I think it was
Yeah.
just simplifying the drawing for,
Right.
you know,
Okay,
for
that's
visual
fine,
purposes.
that's
Yeah.
fine. I guess that-
There's no changes to the roof
No,
shingles
no,
or
no,
anything
it's all
like
right. I
that.
just wanted to clarify that. Well, thank you very much for your cooperation. Don't bang so hard. You're going to break the glass. Thank you very much. Thank you again for your cooperation. I appreciate that. And I think it looks pretty good, but let's go around. Anybody have any comments or questions on it? Or I personally, I like the one with the shutters. And yes, Steph.
I have one question. Going up to the chimney, you've got a white,
Steph, can you do me a favor? Could you talk into the mic?
yes.
I know, it's
Going
fine.
up to the chimney, you have a white space.
A white space. Are you talking about, you go back to slide 4? Are we talking about the little spot?
Down. There.
Right.
What is that?
That's the roof.
That's roof.
That's a roof.
That's
Thank
the
you.
roof plane, yes.
Yeah, that's the question I was asking, Steph. They just didn't show the hatching, and he did it, you know, I agree, to make it simpler, you know, simpler looking at the drawing. Steve?
Just a quick question. The Atwood farm next door, it's all apparently owned by the same people, does that have shutters?
Yeah, yes, it does.
Yeah. Don?
I like the new proposal, and I think the, every house, not every house, but most every house on that street has shutters. That's why I think this stands out without the shutters. And I prefer the no shutter look.
Okay. Steph, can I ask you, shutters, no shutters?
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Steve?
Owner's choice as far as I'm concerned.
Say that again?
Owner's choice as
Owner's
far as
choice.
I'm concerned.
Okay. Don, Bob?
On that same chimney, I had a question about the other side of it. It's showing, I guess, a white, is that a drain system or?
I'm not sure I know what you mean.
Other side of
on
the
it.
chimney.
So the chimney sits inboard of the roof here. So you're seeing the edge of the roof right there.
Okay, all right. No, I guess I'm looking at the existing, sorry, I got the, whatever it is distracted me. Shutters, I'd prefer the no shutter look, but I guess I agree with Steve. It's
Okay.
not that big a deal, so.
Sandy?
First, thank you very much for the 2/2 windows. I prefer the no shutters, but I will go along with Steve and Bob. It's owner's choice.
I think it should be the owner's choice, but I prefer it with the shutters. I think it's just going to be too large of an expanse. You know, we can't really tell by the drawings, but if you've got that whole broad side with nothing, I think I like the shutters. I would go with the architect and the owner personally.
Okay, I personally prefer the shutters, but hopefully the no shutter folks is nothing, no showstopper there. Can we proceed? Proceed. Okay, so at this particular point, it looks like we've got a consensus to approve the application. So the motions that this would be, at this particular time, would be two motions which we need. One, to approve the application relative to the demolition delay, 158, and no demolition imposed, and then not referral to the Cape Cod Commission. Mr. Vice Chair?
The Chatham Historical Commission also finds that the proposed work to be done dated August 16th, 2022, will not materially diminish the historic significance of the building, and therefore the commission does not impose a demolition delay.
Is that a second by Sandy? Thank you very much. Any other discussion? Any public wish to speak for or against the application? Seeing none? Okay, we're going to do a roll call. Bob?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Okay, now, part two.
I move that the Chatham Historical Commission find that the materials presented this date showing that the proposed alterations, additions, renovations do not constitute a substantial alteration to a contributing structure located in an eligible National Historic Register district, and therefore referral to the Cape Cod Commission for review is not necessary.
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Any other comments, questions, comments from the public? Thank you. Mr. Lear?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Ben? Oh, excuse me. Stephanie?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Mike, thank you very much. I appreciate your cooperation.
You bet. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great application. Thank you. Okay, moving right along. The next application we have is application 22008, to be heard in accordance with Chapter 158 Demolition Delay Bylaw. Effectively a partial demolition of an historic structure, potentially historic structure at 79 Cross Street. Allison Coleman is the owner. Let me just quickly, a couple of comments before your presentation, Sam.
Sure.
This home has been before us, I guess, once or twice. It does have a Form B on the property. What we generally do, Sam, is hopefully to move things along. Is there any feeling from the owner or your part relative to the fact that you don't consider the property as historically significant, or any issue with the date of the property?
We have no issues with the date or its historic
Okay.
significance.
All right. Having said that, I picked up the wrong application, so I will now reset to 0. Okay. All right. Again, we do have a Form B on the property,
Yes.
and there's no question relative to its age, and of its historical significance, in my opinion. Does anybody else have any other comments relative to historical significance? Okay. Having said that, with no objection from the applicant, we need a motion relative to indicate the historical significance of the property.
I move the Chatham Historical Commission finds that the building located at 79 Cross Street is historically significant because it is in whole or in part 75 years old or more, and it's associated with more historical persons or events in the town, and has architectural significance in terms of period and style.
Okay. All right. Part 2. Why don't you give us a quick overview of what you're planning to do?
You want to vote on it?
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Was there a second? I apologize. Moving too quickly. Thank you, Sandy. Okay, relative to historic significance? I'm going to vote. Thank you. Thank you. My team keeps me on my toes. Okay. Bob?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. We do that just to eliminate it and move on to the next screen, because if we do find the property not to be historically significant, then technically the applicant can proceed however they want. Thank you very much. Appreciate your patience, Sam.
No problem. So, as this property has been in the ownership of the Colemans, Alice and Coleman currently, and since their ownership and before has been used as rental property, and before that as a boarding house as well, and it's had other commercial uses. So furthering that purpose, the rental units that are on the rear of this view, this is fine, are okay on the first floor, but on the second floor, we're kind of sandwiched in a low roof. Okay, can you get the next slide? So on this existing portion, this part was, a dormer was added on this side, and the next slide. The next, you can see here, the dormers here were added, but they don't provide much headroom in the space. And so the floors were kind of lowered, and there are sort of awkward single steps. There's a roof that comes in between the bedroom that you have to pass through to get to the kitchen. It is very, very poorly laid out, and there's no other way to do that. The first floor has an addition here that was a bedroom that was added with access to a bathroom, and the kitchen is way in the back. So to make 2 units on the back, we plan to use the and if you could go to the other side of this, 2 back. We have determined that basically this wall is in the same time frame as the major Greek Revival front of this building.
Can you say that again, Sam? What are you saying?
We're saying that this back wall seems to be based on the foundation of granite blocks, based on the height of the wall, based on the roof, and a photograph that we have that shows the back without this little dormer on it, and the dormers on the other side seem to be done at an earlier stage. And so we're making every effort to save this wall. And if you could go to the next slide. And it's hard to see, but this structure here, we feel behind the porch is worth saving. So we're saving that wall and the other wall, and what parts of it we find inside, we'll save the older materials where we have a planned use for them. So the only thing the things we're demolishing is this bedroom on the end and these dormers here on this end roof, and the wall here at the end, so that we can build a leaving the wall height the same, we can build a steeper dormer, get a steeper gable on the end, and then get a steeper roof on the dormers, which will then give us proper headroom that will match the headroom throughout the whole building. This way, the unit, the rental unit that's on this back wall, on the first floor and on the second floor, that rental unit now becomes a simpler layout and more attractive and easier to maintain. So that's our, basically, that's our proposal. There are, if we go back one slide. So this is going to be a bedroom, and we need another window to meet the code for a bedroom. So we're enlarging that little dormer here, and you can see it here. And then we're adding this dormer all the way across, which frees up the headroom throughout the that part of that unit. On the other side, if you could go to the to add this window is being made a little bit larger, and if you could go to the first slide, you could see these are being shown as being demolished because they are far down on that elevation, that south elevation. That's pretty much the presentation.
Thank you very much, Sam. Appreciate it. It's a lot, in my opinion, but let's work our way through it. Pretty significant addition to the Greek revival, but let's go around. Any questions or comments? Steph?
I have one question. Does a bedroom, it must have a window?
Oh, yes.
And is that the United States,
Well,
Massachusetts?
a bedroom has ventilation and light requirements that a single double hung does not provide.
Thank you.
Steve?
Generally, in just looking at the house, although the modifications to it are quite old, it may be limited, but the house certainly looks like a long history of additions and changes. Whether it's the addition of dormers that are kind of isolated by themselves, not really part of a pattern, the juts and the jags and the jogs or whatever seem to be everywhere. I kind of looked at this and said, there doesn't seem to be any changes that you could make that will make it any less conforming to what its original structure was. I think you've done it with a great deal of sensitivity. A difficult project to be sure, or complex to be sure, with many facets to it. But I certainly appreciate what the family has done in terms of its maintenance, and its careful consideration to make it a better home without making any substantial modifications in terms of its changing the character of the house.
Thank you.
Don?
I think this application is worthy of approval. I think the applicant has done a significant job in maintaining the identity of the existing old house, and the additions are certainly in keeping of that definition of the old house. So there's nothing hiding what was an old house before. It's just putting nicely designed additions on, and I would vote to approve.
Bob?
I agree with Don, and I think partially too, most of these changes are not really visible from the street. That's the big stuff is often that corner obstructed by the house next door and vegetation, so I'm fine with it.
Sandy?
I agree with Don and Bob. I like it.
Jenna?
I agree with everything that's been said so far, and frankly, I think the front streetscape will be intact just as it is, but the side streetscape, which is pretty important too, because you're coming from town and see it, I think it'll be vastly improved. And to have the porch on the side, it just will be a vast improvement. I would vote for approval.
Thank you. I guess I like the application. I like what you proposed, Sam. But picking up on Steve's comments of, the house that was there, which was an interesting structure, okay? Certainly, we're losing the interesting structure. We're now got a bit of uniformity, and that bothers me a little bit, that you're making it so new. There's no question this is going to be a different house, especially from that side street. It's not going to be the same, in my opinion, charming structure that it was in terms of the multiple additions. As quirky as they may seem to some, that's what it was. But I'm certainly not going to, vote against it. I would ask that dormer on the historic portion of the house that you're taking out, go to drawing 2, Christina.
This one?
Yeah, and I know what you're trying to do there. You're trying to get bedroom height. Okay, and you got the same angle on the roof and everything like that. But you kind of stuffed 2 windows up there, where there was one. And, that, just a little detail,
Okay.
that I'm thinking about, and then when you put the shutters on it, then it really looks like it's stuffed. That's
Well,
why,
we could obviously reduce the impact of that dormer. I could tailor the windows to the actual square inches that I need, and which I didn't do. I just picked windows that I thought would be
Yeah.
attractive, and I could reduce the impact of that dormer.
yeah.
So-
Okay, and the other thing is that the house does have I guess a portico, or I don't know what we call that, that little out the front, so you are mimicking it in the front, and that's okay. It does, it's a lot, but
This porch here is going to
Yeah.
be recreated here.
right, exactly. Yeah, other than that, that was my only comment on it, and I think, good job.
I appreciate that.
So we seem to have consensus here, okay? I'd ask the question officially, do you know whether or not you're going to zoning or not?
Oh, of course.
You are?
Because the lot is not conforming. And this is, the coverage is over the allowed coverage. The lot's too small, so that would force us to go to the,
But you're not changing the footprint, are you?
we're enlarging the footprint slightly.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize that. I guess I-
But even if you're not,
Oh, is that right?
even if you're not, if you have a less than, standard-sized lot, and
Okay.
your coverage would then be over.
Yeah.
But even the substandard lot has been a reason to go to zoning board of
Okay.
appeals.
So that zoning is the only thing you have to go. The
That's
reason I
right.
asked the question, our friends at zoning, when we approve something, goes to zoning, never know what's going to come back.
Yes.
And, we like to just kind of stay tuned to it and, not that we're going to object to it or not, but, and generally like follow what's happening with the application.
Certainly could come
There is
back and-
communication between the various groups, which is good. It's good for the town. Things don't
Sure.
just happen in a vacuum. Anyway, all right. I think we have, say again? Yeah. Thank you very much. Anybody want to speak for or against the application? Come on up. So if you please introduce yourself.
How are you?
You can introduce yourself to Sam, too.
I'm Steve Hecht, and a butter, 15 Shattuck Place, right across the street from the proposed property. And I just have a couple questions. The first being, I say my wife and I are wondering if,
Could you speak into the microphone a little bit for me?
sure, we're wondering if no construction can be done between Memorial Day and Labor Day.
Well, I think I indicated, we don't have jurisdiction in that, but certainly it's worthy of a question if the applicant's willing to answer. Yes.
Yes, usually the Board of Appeals always covers that subject. So
Okay.
whether they will in this case, but because there are a lot of rental properties in summer, I'm sure they'll cover it.
Okay, good.
Another easy question. The trees, there's 5 trees on the Shattuck side. Could we retain those? Are those going to be removed or modified in any manner?
Do you want to answer that for her, Ted, or Allison, if you could come up, please?
Go ahead, Dennis.
Sorry. Again, sir, this is not binding with relative to this particular hearing, but if the applicant's willing to answer, then certainly.
Yeah. The intention it would certainly be to retain as much of the trees as we can. I think there's a cedar that is right next to the house that would be taken out by that side porch. But there's a shag maple, there are 2 maples there and a red bud that are close to the streetscape that we may need to trim them back a little bit so that they're not touching the house, but the intention will be to retain as much as we possibly can.
Thank you. Allison, excuse me, want to just introduce,
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Allison Coleman. I'm one of the owners at Ship's Light. Thanks.
thank you very much. Do we answer your question, sir?
I have a couple more, if I might.
Oh, go right ahead, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you
Okay,
off.
thank you. We were under the impression that the property is residential, and now Ship's Light Corporation, which is a business, is expanding the property, and we're questioning how residential properties turn into commercial properties.
Well, that's truly a zoning board question, and that we really, can't, but if the applicant, Sam, you want to add something to that?
Well, it's a pre-existing non-conforming use.
Yeah, right, this
And so
has been a,
As
Yeah.
it pre-existed the zoning of Chatham, and so that's established the
Yeah.
usage. The
yeah,
owner-
that's a quirk in Massachusetts, pre-existing non-conforming, and you could continue non-conforming.
So this could be discussed at a later date at zoning? Is that what we're
It could,
saying?
but yes, definitely, you could get a more definitive answer at the zoning relative to the legal ramifications. Yes, Allison?
I'm sure we'll cover this at zoning, but we're not changing the use. The
Yeah.
house has been 4 apartments since around 1945. And the upstairs was used as a boarding house since World War I. And it's been rented continuously during that time. So when my family began ownership in the 1970s, we continued the use that had been extant, and it has been continuously rented as 4 units. Actually, a while back, it was rented as 5 units. We actually took out a unit at one point, but it's not a change in use.
Okay, yes, sir, anything else?
I think that's it. Thank you very
Well,
much.
thank you very much, I appreciate your interest, and thanks for coming down.
Sure.
We rarely get public here, so we always, well, somebody's here. Okay, I think we hit all the buttons, so at this particular point, we need a motion. We already validated the historical significance, but motion, I assume it's not to incur a demolition delay? Bob?
That's my plan.
I'm sorry, 1 second.
Just one comment. I I appreciate the fact that you have some flexibility with that dormer, which has been changed from a single dormer to a double, or at least two windows. I just don't want you to go crazy on making any modifications to that, just for modification's sake. And if this works better, I would hope that you not take Frank's comments as you must reduce that to
No,
something different.
we'll just look at it fairly.
Okay, thank you.
We didn't require it, we just made the comment. Thank you. Okay, motion?
Yes, sir. Chatham Historical Commission also finds that the proposed work to be done dated July 12th, 2022 will not materially diminish the historic significance of the building, and therefore the commission does not impose a demolition delay.
Second.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any other comments? The only comment I make, I encourage the members of the commission to express your opinions, okay? That's what I'm paid the big bucks for. Okay, roll call. Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much. So,
Thank you so much.
good luck with the zoning board. Lately, that's an adventure. Okay, we have one more application. We're moving along very nicely here. Application 22009, 307 Bridge Street. This is to be heard in accordance with Chapter 158. There's a small boathouse that is the subject of the application. Sorry. Bam. So this is kind of straightforward. Hopefully, I don't know, the site visit attended by Janet and Sandy, myself, and Stephanie. I don't know if your other members had a chance to take that walk down to the beach. Beautiful spot. So, forget your names, introduce yourselves quickly.
Jason Muto Construction.
Right, okay, it's just kind of straightforward. Why don't you just quickly tell us what you're doing and
Sure. So the intention is to demolish the current structure and rebuild it in the exact same configuration. The determination to demolish the structure was kind of secondary. Initially, we had attempted to salvage the structure and lift it up above the coastal bank and replace the pilings underneath and then replace the structure back onto the pilings. Due to the fact that the structure itself doesn't have any great historic architectural details to it, we decided to look into the possibility of demolishing it and rebuilding it. Also, the determination as to exactly when the structure was built kind of falls into that area of time right around 75 years ago. So because we couldn't determine the exact date of construction, we are here before you. One thing I would like to note with the structure being demolished and rebuilt, the original intention, if we were to salvage the building, would have been to rehab the total exterior. So whether or not we use the existing structure or replace the existing structure, the actual appearance of the structure would be the same.
are you saying you're questioning whether or not you will demolish it?
No, we plan to demolish it.
Okay, but just whether or not,
Yeah, it became
Yeah, I
a
got you.
financial question. It ended up saving about, 40 to
Okay.
50% of the cost to demolish it and rebuild it, as opposed to lift it and replace it onto the pilings.
oh, there was some question relative to the age, but I think we determined, given the kind of wood and its construction, that it probably just is about 75 or a little bit more.
Yeah, I think
So-
we're all in agreement on that.
Excuse me?
I believe we're all in agreement on that.
Yeah,
It's very
so,
close.
now, so the question really is, well, I also like the fact that the applicant has provided us with the, a copy of what they're planning, which is almost a mirror image of what was there, which we appreciate. But we still technically need to go through the process of determining its historical significance. And one of the comments we made during the site visit is that, well, what our jurisdiction as it relates to streetscape. Well, there is no street nearby, but certainly seascape, which is also part of our jurisdiction, and certainly that's a beautiful spot. And Don's boat's right down the road there, so we gotta consider this, the
Want to keep him happy.
the seascape. So, I feel that it is significant. It's a shame we're losing it, but by the same token, the applicant is putting it back, so that's my feeling. Anybody else have any comments relative to historical significance, or yes or no? Don, Bob?
I'm for it. I might add parenthetically, my boat is out there too, and I worked in that boatyard in the 1960s, and I worked on the boats at that pier, so I've known it for a long time.
I think that's one of the first places I went fishing as a kid in Chatham.
You were allowed to work when you were 10 years old?
In the 60s? No, I think you're a little off, yeah.
All right, anybody else want to comment? Don?
Yeah, my only concern is that the existing building has beautiful old wide boards that are the basis of it, and I suspect that it's going to be plywood construction with shingles over it, and it's a shame to lose all that old wood.
Anybody else? Well, let's dispose of an item 1 first. Let's determine if A, it's historically significant. So, get a motion to that?
Yeah, I move the Chatham Historical Commission finds that the boathouse located at 307 Bridge Street is historically significant because it is in whole or part 75 years old or more, and it possesses architectural value or significance in terms of its period and style.
Thank you. Was a second?
I'll second.
Second? That was Steve, thank you. Okay, no other comments, questions? Public? Nope, okay. Bob?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Okay. So the question really is here, can you go over again why you want to demolish it? Just for the record.
Sure, the determination, so originally we had proposed to lift the structure up to the top of the coastal bank and then replace it back onto the pilings. It really became a matter of it being cost prohibitive. There's really not much to the structure, and there was a cost savings to our customer of about 40 to 50% in demolishing it and rebuilding it, because of the fact that we were replacing the siding, the roofing, the trim, the windows, the doors, and it's such a small structure, it became cost prohibitive to try to salvage the actual building itself.
Well, Don?
Can I ask a question? Is it possible to use lumber instead of plywood?
As the sheathing,
Right.
sure, as in like spruce boards, or salvaging the actual lumber that is currently in the structure.
I'm sorry?
New material or trying to salvage the existing material?
Either one.
Can you salvage it? Is it salvageable?
We could definitely make an attempt to salvage it. It is in a very wet area, so I wouldn't be surprised if some of the underlying sheathing was in poor condition. But, I'd be willing to attempt to salvage whatever
Okay.
we can. As I agree, I grew up in a historic home and I loved it. So I understand salvaging, because some of those boards are pretty wide in there and you don't see that, these days.
That would be appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, we could make that a condition, an attempt to salvage the existing sheathing. Okay? We got everybody kind of go for that?
Yeah,
Janet?
looking at the, sorry, Janet, just
That's
looking
okay.
at the bottom boards in the photos, it looks like there may
Oh,
be
they're
some
plywood.
issues down there.
Yeah.
Yes, but the others don't look too bad.
No.
Yeah, I would agree with Bob Lear. I think it's pretty iffy whether that would be salvageable.
Well, yeah, I think Don is not talking about the floorboards.
Yeah.
He's talking about the sheathing, the wide boards. If you notice on the sheathing, there's good, 15-inch boards there, maybe bigger. Right, Don?
Right.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about those same boards, but what I mean, the bottom layer is.
Oh, the bottom layer. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, right, exactly. I mean, it's not going to be 100% salvageable. No. And that was, and I agree with you, the idea of picking it up. Well, you pick it up, guess what? Yeah.
My only comment is not about what's being done. It's about the print on this application. My old eyes don't want to read it.
The what?
My old eyes don't want to read this small.
Oh, yeah, well, we can talk to Christina, our new administrative assistant. Is that the title? You don't know? No. It's not Hey You, right? Okay, all right.
And
So,
I can have my administrator, next time when she's filling out the application, use like Adobe to actually type it as opposed to write. She has very nice handwriting, but she does write small.
yeah, okay. All right, so I think we seem to have consensus. We can move on here. Bob?
Yep. Chatham Historical Commission also finds that the proposed work to be done dated July 7th, 2022 will not materially diminish the historical significance of the building, and therefore the commission does not impose a demolition delay.
Second,
Can we add within the determination, Christina, the comment relative to the applicant agrees to attempt to reuse as much of the existing sheathing as possible in rebuilding? We can add that in the determination. Okay, does everybody agree with that?
May I
Are
ask
you
one-
making
may
that
I-
a requirement?
No, well, the applicant will try to use as much as he can. In other words, it'll make an attempt to reuse it. If he can't, he can't.
I would gladly, once we're underway with the demolition, I'd gladly submit photographs of what we were able to salvage.
Fine, that's great. Thank you very much. Any other comments? Okay. We had a vote in a second? We did.
Yes.
All right, so roll call, Bob,
Yes.
Steph, excuse me, Steve,
Yes.
Steph,
yes.
Don,
Yes,
Sandy,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
hesitant yes. And the chair votes yes. Okay, thank you very much. We really do appreciate your cooperation. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, thank you.
Interesting job you got there.
Yes, for sure.
Do you go there in your bathing suit? For a dip in the pool?
I haven't yet. Okay, thank you all.
You hang a fishing rod over, sort of watch it as you're building?
I'm quite certain that most likely I will show up at the very end of the day as the guys are leaving and toss a couple out there.
Yeah, pool party, go away.
There's not much to be had.
Well, I mean,
Weird things.
while we were out there, we did see a couple of stripers splashing around.
Oh, yeah,
so-
they're there.
Well, there's lots of steel splash, too.
Yeah.
No, there's some schoolies in there. That was a great place in the early spring to get schoolies up in the pond and
Yeah.
and holdovers.
Yeah, I grew
Okay.
up on Barcliff, and that was one of the, like I said, that was one of the first places I went fishing off of Main Street. Walk through Main Street, wet hole, and go down there. So, all right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Pleasure meeting you again, sir. All right, we've got a couple of quick things to do. I just quickly, Christina, when Michelle comes back, is she going to be in the office when she's back that day?
She is.
Good.
She'll be on Monday.
If you could put on the list, in addition to that, the issue of the current application changes. She did, it's the first item on her old business. She did some work on that. It was we kept pushing it off, and it may have to get pushed off again, but at this particular time,
I think Dean's hand is up.
say again?
I think Dean's hand is up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Dean. Mr. Nicastro? No?
His hand is not up.
Nope. Okay, thank you very much.
I don't have anything to say. I just monitoring the meeting, that's all.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to, again, postpone the review of the current application, possible changes. Again, you folks have the previous applications, but if there's something that you think could be improved, if you can get the comments back to me and Christina, we appreciate it. All right, the second two items, the update of the archaeological surveys for the cemetery and the townwide archaeological survey report. Steve, as you're aware, we're currently in a situation of potentially getting additional quotes to meet the procurement process. And Craig did respond with some other alternative companies who could do the work. So Christina has that information, and when Michelle gets back, we're going to proceed. So we have to go through the process of getting additional quotes and hopefully proceed. Funding has been identified for both of those tasks, and hopefully, long last, we'll get started. South Chatham Village, under our correspondence, you do have a piece of correspondence where we did receive notice that it was published in the National Register. The fact that the South Chatham Village Historic District application was being reviewed by the National Park Service, and they request comments. So I made a quick comment, which you got a copy of it, basically indicating there were no objections to the State Review Board, and really no objections from the people in the proposed district. So hopefully that will proceed, and we'll be able to maybe celebrate in September. By then, hopefully, we'll get the formal notification that South Chatham Village is in fact made into a National Register District, which will be our third National Register District in the town of Chatham. Okay, that's that. The second item is the next item is the Monomoy Theater. If you've been following the HBDC, which I have, and closely, and having conversations with Greg Clark, the applicant, the owner of the Monomoy Theater, he did receive a pretty good review of the design of the changes to the Washington Taylor House, as well as the new proposed Monomoy Theater and the adjacent restaurant. So it looks like the HBDC has given him tacit approval to proceed. So relative to the minor changes he has to make, hopefully that design will be back before the HBDC in a future meeting, which then hopefully will be in, I'm sure it has to go back to zoning, but it looks like hopefully in another year or two, we may have a theater back. Yes, Steph?
I just wanted to say, I thought the whole thing was awful.
Okay.
Because the house, the theater is so small in between, it looks
Yeah.
insignificant.
Yes, I don't disagree with you, but luckily or unluckily, he was able to persuade the HBDC that it's consistent. The HBDC looks at things a little bit different than we do. They take the historic business portion of the business district a lot. They're always, in my opinion, they're interested in preserving the business district. And, yes, Don.
Quick question. Who has authority over parking? There's absolutely no parking available with a new restaurant. I wonder how that could get approved.
Well, I think it'll happen the same way every other restaurant is in town. It's never enforced. But in my opinion, if the zoning or planning board, turns it down for that, we're going to find themselves in court, because the zoning board nor the planning board never enforces the parking ordinance, and it should be stricken off the books, because if you don't adhere to a law for like 75 years, forget about it. The courts are going to say you never do it. So
I think outside of town, there's enforcement, but certainly not downtown, but outside of town, I think there's parking enforcement, but just a question.
yeah, that was a conversation, quite honestly, I had, and it said, well, we'll see you in court. It's very difficult to turn it down. But anyway, I like the fact that it's proceeding, and we're going to hopefully save that theater as well as the Washington Taylor House. Again, it's HBDC, not us. The Coast Guard Boathouse is proceeding. I happen to know that, and they'll continue to work on it, so we'll see where that goes. Mr. Nicastro, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Do you know where the actual upweller process is definitively?
I do not. I did have a brief informal conversation with the Shellfish Constable a couple of weeks ago on that very question, and I guess they're still making some final touches to the plans, and I think it will probably come back to the select board at some point for an update. But and of course the boathouse figures into that process. So I don't have anything more than that at this point.
Thank you very
Sorry.
much. This was a select board member, Dean Nicastro. Yeah, that's the same thing I got, informally, that the boathouse is ready, buttoned up. The town is working on finalizing the design for the upweller, and once the two of them meet, they'll begin work probably next year in the dredging and putting in the pilings, for the boathouse and the work, as well as the revetments. Okay, the correspondence we had, we already went through it, the National Park Service. Current status of demolition delays, there's really nothing new, fortunately or unfortunately, with our outstanding demolition delays. So any other comments? Nope. Okay. We do have one piece of additional business, and that is ratification of 347 Stage Harbor Road. This was some changes by the Chatham Historical Society, the Atwood, to the roof over the addition that was reviewed, and by the members of the board were a part of the administrative review process, and they did not have any problem with the application proceeding. It consisted of their what do you call? I'm calling them lighthouses, not lighthouses. Skylights. There are skylights on the existing building that it's really a new part of the building, and they wanted to eliminate the skylights, and because the changes were relatively insignificant and not really and seen from the street, we felt they could proceed with an administrative review. Did I say that right?
Pretty good, yeah.
Thank you very much. So we can get a motion to reaffirm. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to get a formal thank you to Michelle. She has done so much for us, and she's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
We're going to miss her, but I think Christina she's really something.
Michelle will be here on the 6th, so you can see her then.
Yeah, we'll be able to embarrass her. To thank her formally. Yeah, she, it's interesting. I don't know we got into Michelle, but we are. But, if you think about it, it's about 5 years that she's been doing this. The Historical Commission, and when she first came on, like most of us come on the Historical Commission, well, what am I supposed to do? Michelle, very much the administrative end of it, I don't want the word to use secretarial, but that part of the job was easy for her. But in working with us, which is hard, and working with the public, with the application, trust me, as Christina can attest to it, they go to work with flak jackets on, right? So anyway. Okay, well, we have a motion here. We got distracted. Yes, sir.
I move that the Historical Commission reaffirm or ratify the visitor's opinion that the project is maintenance or repair of the roof and does not need to file an application.
Second, please.
Second.
Second. Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Other than the fact this administrative review process is working in allowing us to eliminate some very straightforward, simple applications for us and the public. So we're going to do a roll call on that administrative review. Mr. Lira?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much. There's one piece of business that I neglected. It was new business, and I sent you a piece of correspondence. I'm not sure how many of you folks are on the listserv to receive the Mass Historic Commission emails. If you are, if you're not, you might want to, maybe you don't want more emails in your inbox, but they occasionally have something interesting, and you got a copy there. And what it is there's a new liaison to the Historical Commissions from Mass Historic, and she's taking the job very seriously. As far as I'm concerned, her name is Jennifer Doherty, and she's going to be conducting a number of seminars, and you have on that list introducing to Macris, becoming a certified government, introducing to historic preservation. So I know I've attended some of those over the years, and I know Don has on various subjects. I forget, what was this, Chris Scully? Chris Scully, what's his name? The former
Scully.
guy at,
Skelly, yeah.
say again?
Chris Skelly?
Yes, had this position. So anyway, there's not mandatory, but if you're interested in learning a little bit more about what we do and how we do it, and you might want to think about attending some of these virtual or live meetings of the Mass Historic. It's kind of interesting because usually they're attended by not just, they're attended mostly by Historical Commission members or chairs from other parts of the town. And there's always interesting questions because you find out the problems we have are not unique anyway. So, okay, for what it's worth. Having said that, we motion to adjourn, unless there's something else? Second?
Second?
So, moved and second. I'm sure there's no discussion. Bob?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Janet? And the chair
Yes.
votes yes. Thank you very much, guys.